I think I need to get a new hat. This is a very old hat. Okay, so it's not the most clever of segues to it. I can't always have an idea to start the video. Something gotta do what you gotta do. So, hey everybody, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic, and we're talking about the Houston Texans today. Um, yeah. Okay, the Houston Texans was a team that we were all hyped. We were all hyped on the CJ Stroud train. We were like, yeah, CJ Stroud, yes, they got Diggs. All right, yeah. So when things start hitting the fan, and not just with losses, but with injuries, there were even talks about so who had the Texans going to the Super Bowl? You want a mulligan on that one? Anybody? That was the feeling I felt. The Texans kind of dropped back a little bit, even though they got Hunter for the defensive line to go with Anderson. I thought the Texans' defense was great, and the way they did, I mean, going to the playoff game, that was that was wonderful to see what they did, and it made us feel like, see, you know, don't count us out, and playoff means a different atmosphere. But CJ Stroud was basically trying to make do with a very injured-ridden receiving core, similar to what Jordan Love went through with Green Bay, which we'll talk about them when they did. CJ Stroud was doing his best to make do, and I feel like with the acquisition of Diggs, it was supposed to help make CJ Stroud more comfortable and progress moving forward in his second year. Did CJ Stroud regress? I think he regressed in the confidence a lot of people had. I think there were some, even Texan fans were feeling like, not saying that, oh my God, we made a bad choice, he's sophomore slump. I think it was a notion of, I think some people started figuring him out, but also, you know, competition changes, defensive coaches adapt, and injuries plagued it. I mean, CJ Stroud wasn't terrible, but it wasn't that same, like, yeah, it was more like, okay, he slummed, but hey, we still won the division. We still won a playoff game. It's not doom and gloom. We're okay, guys. We're okay. Let's just, you know, hope that our injuries come back and we do something well in the free agency and the draft. Now, they did make some great acquisitions. I think the Joe Mixon acquisition was something I was a little bit like, but he showed up, and I was actually feeling like, wow, I think Joe Mixon has helped CJ Stroud, or at least sometimes cover up CJ Stroud's slums this year. And that's how I felt. I'm really glad the Texans did not regress to the point of them missing the playoffs or worse, having like a 10-loss season. Like some people were thinking that worst case scenario, the Texans become a mirage, and we thought last year was just a fluke. That's what I was hoping. It was not going to happen. It didn't. But even then, I said 12-5, 9-8. They went 10-7, so good sweet spot in between. But I still felt like the Texans, mainly on their defensive side, was going to be enough to still make the playoffs and probably still win the division, even a 9-8 record. Like, that's how confident I was. I feel like that was one of the few teams where I felt like they're making the playoffs. Making the playoffs. How? I don't know. But they're making the playoffs. And well, when you have Jacksonville and Tennessee both losing 13-plus games, you're thinking, wow, that makes it easier. Wow, that was easy. So that's how I feel about the Texans season. You know, a slum, but not a failure. Their best game. I know, the first 4 weeks I don't do. Because the first 4 weeks, I always feel like it's kind of like a preseason for the starters need to get involved. But a week 5 early matchup against Buffalo, a team that more than likely would have been a playoff matchup. Then again, we didn't know how good Josh Allen was going to be yet, or how good the Bills were going to be, period. So this was a game that, I mean, it was a big, you know, slobber knocker. I mean, 2023, that's a good slobber knocker type of, you know, matchup game between these two young quarterbacks. When I mean young, I mean young as in the new faces of the NFL. CJ Stroud, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, all in the AFC, mind you. NFC, keep up. So this was a game that I felt that, okay, this benefits the Texan when it comes to playoff positioning if the time should arise that this matchup between the two, this tiebreaker, could give the Texans a nod when it comes to playoff positioning. That's how I looked at it. Yes, he's still very young, and we have no idea how good Josh Allen, or that he was on trajectory to be an MVP. We did not know that. But he was. So overall, this was a good matchup. It was still very new season for week 5. Nothing gonna say too crazy about it, but this was one of the things like, remember week 5 when the time comes. Now we're gonna go to your worst game, and the worst game, it was more on, really? Was like, we gave you every opportunity and you still couldn't win. Week 10 versus Detroit. Now, some of you Texans fans are basically saying, you know, screw you and turn off the video. For that, please come back. Please come back. For Detroit Lion fans, you're thinking, oh yeah, we nearly shat the bed on that one. And for those that don't remember, this matchup was a game where Jared Goff threw not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 interceptions. And the Texans still lost by 3 because the Detroit Lions are the better team when it matters most. Thank you! I made that up on my own just now. I am that good, or I'm that lucky. Yes, whatever you say. When a team loses the turnover battle, it's been talked about it all over. You lose the turnover battle, probably almost 9 out of 10 times you're going to lose. But then it's just that 1. And this was the 1. This was a game at one point, it was 23-7. Texans' favor. Now, I would say a lot of them were field goals that probably should have been touchdowns that probably would have made this lead a little more insurmountable. But 23-7 at halftime, and with the amount of interception that was happening, I think a lot of people were still feeling pretty confident. But basically, the Texans got shut out in the second half. And the Lions basically chipped. The Lions had 2 field goals of 50 yards, 158 and 150. By the way, it's done by Jake Bates, who was basically the god of UFL Michigan Panthers game back in the semi-pro league. And when he got picked up by Detroit, I was like, well, any kick, you know, over 60, he makes, because that's what he did. In case you don't know who Bates is, I'm telling you, look at his highlights, read up on his story, and just be like, that's the guy that once proves that UFL is beneficial to get players a chance to go to the NFL, and we should be more supportive, and matter of fact, have more teams, so therefore we can expand, get more players as a developmental league. The same thing that NFL Europe was doing, but now it's locally. By the way, go Birmingham Stallions. So that's the point I was saying there. That to me is why. But the Texans had 2 turnovers of their own, but when Jared Goff, who had games where he has thrown more, how was it? He has thrown more touchdown passes than he has incompletions. There were a game where basically he was 16 of 16 and we're in the third quarter, and he had like 300 yards. Like, that's how Jared Goff was very much a dark horse, you know, MVP candidate. In my whole opinion, and NFL kind of agree too. But with 5 interceptions, not 5 turnovers, like he fumbled, 5 interceptions, which means his throwing ability doomed him, which we saw in the playoff against the Commanders. His turnovers did doom the Lions. And they still won, and this game was at Houston in prime time. That to me shows the character of Detroit, but also makes you look at the Houston Texans going, dude, they gave you every opportunity. What gives? That's why it's the worst for the Texans. Because 5 interceptions and you guys still lost. When you guys had a 23-7 lead at halftime, you guys were at home. Like, it just felt like, did you guys piss off a leprechaun or something at halftime? Like, what gives? So that to me is the reason why this is the worst game. I mean, it didn't hurt. It didn't hinder their playoff at all. But it was just like, yeah, you maybe not want to talk about this game if you're a Houston Texan fan or player. MVP, I feel like he was the unsung hero. You can say CJ Stroud, who had only 20 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. I'm going to give it to Joe Mixon. Yes, Joe Mixon just barely had over 1,000 yards. He did it in 14 games, mind you. And he had 11 touchdowns. I think the Joe Mixon acquisition, which I thought was like, I don't know. Did Reyes really? I mean, I thought Pierce was pretty good at your running back position. But Mixon got an extra flavor. He looked bulkier. Didn't Joe Mixon look like he bulked up? Because I thought when he came out of Oklahoma to the Cincinnati Bengals, I thought he was more of like a slash and dash. In Houston though, he looked like he bulked up. I mean, I'm not saying he's fat. I mean, I should know what fat is, but he looked very much like solid. Like man, that there's some meat on the bones and then some. Like he looked kind of thick when he run the ball, and he ran with something like authority. That I was like, this is the same Joe Mixon from Cincinnati I remembered? Nah. So maybe statistically didn't show it, but if you watch a couple of Joe Mixon's highlights, he just ran and he was just so utilized so effectively that he, even with all the receiver injuries, he was so effective to help the Texans make the playoffs. So that's the reason why he got the MVP versus other players that did great, but the team did not win games to go to the playoff. That's why he got MVP, because of his efforts and his talent and his stats dictate playoff-bound division title, while others just dictate good yardage, still number one pick, Tony Pollard. Grade I give you this year, you guys won the division, always a plus. In your second year, CJ Stroud proved that it was a one-year wonder, and Ryan proved that his one-year head coach was not a fluke. Injury bug plagued you. CJ Stroud did not look like the CJ Stroud of last year, but he was not the worst thing. You guys won a playoff game to the second round. It's a success. I think this was a successful season for the Texans. That's the grade I'll give it. You win the division, win a playoff game. You kind of scared the Chiefs for a few quarters, but in the end, I still feel like you guys are not ready for the big time, and injuries really did hurt you, especially in the receiving core. But I'm hoping that this year coming up is not going to be the same problem. But to me, that is the that's the grade I'll give it. It's a successful season, division titles back to back, with CJ Stroud and Ryan as the captains, and you guys won a playoff game again. So positives all around. Congrats. Your draft pick capital. Let's be real. We're like I said, there were some trades. There were some players going all over the place. There's still some receivers out there. I get it. But because CJ Stroud is still young, I want to give him a young gun too. So his picks for receiving core is basically just all receivers. I got Luther Burden III from Missouri. I got Mbuke from Ohio State. And I got Matthew Golden from Texas. I am leaning towards Matthew Golden from Texas because I feel like Luther and Mbuka will be gone by then. And I feel like Matthew Golden, especially towards the playoff route with the Texas Longhorns, really showed that he can do it. That he really showed, I feel like, up his stats. And I feel like he has been kind of like quietly being successful during his combine, and hopefully his pro day will dictate that more. We haven't seen the pro day yet, of course, by the time we're doing this recording. We're still midway through March, not yet for pro days. So Matthew Golden, to me, will probably be a Houston Texans. And in a weird way, I'm thinking, hey, a Texas receiver going to a Texas NFL team. It's a match made in Texas heaven. So I think Matthew Golden will be a Houston Texan. And I really believe the Texans will draft a wide receiver in the first round, regardless who it is. Could they surprise me? Of course they could surprise me. But I'm thinking wide receiver to help CJ Stroud so that we're going to develop that 1-2 tandem for the next 15 years together. That's what I think. And that's the Houston Texans. And that's the South. We are done with the South. So now we're going to move on up. And since the AFC West was in the Super Bowl, they're last. And the NFC East was in both, so they're also last. So who's the next division that technically lost to be considered next? Let's go to the North. let's go to the North. And since we're in the AFC side, let's stay in the AFC side and let's go to another team that's going through their own quarterback, conundrum again. So we're going to start the AFC North with the Cleveland Browns because, my God, they suck again. But Myles Garrett got paid, even though he wants to go to a contender. So I guess money talks and Super Bowl rings walk. So until next time, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic. Thank you so very much for watching.